A man found dead in his apartment, locked from the inside, with no visible wounds. The autopsy revealed poison that does not exist in nature. How did it get there? This case has baffled forensic experts for decades. The death of Gregory Minton in 1983 remains one of the most perplexing cases in forensic history. A retired chemist living alone in a quiet suburban neighborhood in Virginia, Minton was found dead in his armchair by a neighbor who had not seen him for 3 days. The doors were locked from inside. The windows were sealed. There was no sign of forced entry, no signs of struggle, and no obvious cause of death. Gregory Minton was a 63-year-old retired pharmaceutical chemist who had worked for a major drug company for 35 years. Colleagues described him as quiet, meticulous, and somewhat reclusive. He had no known enemies and few close friends. His wife had passed away 5 years earlier, and his 2 adult children lived in different states. He spent most of his time reading, gardening, and occasionally consulting for local businesses on chemical safety. When police entered the apartment on October 15, 1983, they found Minton sitting in his favorite armchair, as if he had simply fallen asleep. A book was open on his lap. A cup of tea sat on the side table, half finished. There were no signs of disturbance anywhere in the apartment. The door was locked with the chain engaged from inside. The medical examiner initially listed the cause of death as natural causes, likely heart failure. Routine toxicology screening detected an anomaly. A second, more detailed analysis revealed a synthetic compound in Minton's blood that had no known natural source. The compound was a rare experimental pharmaceutical agent that had been discontinued years earlier. It was never approved for human use and was supposed to have been destroyed. The investigation immediately shifted from natural death to homicide. Investigators focused on Minton's former employer. The compound had been developed at the same pharmaceutical company where he worked. Only a handful of scientists had ever had access to it. Minton himself was one of them. His former colleague, Dr. Tate, had been the lead researcher on the project and had been furious when the company scrapped it. Tate had made threats against company executives, but had no known grudge against Minton. The case was never officially solved. Dr. Tate was interviewed multiple times but had a solid alibi for the weeks surrounding Minton's death. No evidence linked any individual to the poisoning. Theories ranged from self-administration to corporate espionage to accidental exposure to residue from Minton's own research. The compound was so rare that the source could never be traced. The case remains open but inactive. The Gregory Minton case is a reminder that even in the modern age of forensic science, some deaths remain unexplained. A man died from a substance that should not exist, in a room sealed from inside, with no evidence of foul play. Was it murder, suicide, or something else entirely? The answer may never be known. What do you think really happened in that locked room? Share your theory in the comments. For 40 years, the killer walked free. The evidence sat in a storage room gathering dust. Then a new detective with fresh eyes reopened the case, and what he found would change everything. In 1979, the body of 22-year-old Susan Morris was discovered in a wooded area outside Portland, Oregon. She had been strangled. Despite an intensive investigation, no suspect was ever identified. The case went cold within 2 years. It would remain frozen for 4 decades until a chance discovery brought it back to life. Susan Morris was a nursing student at Portland Community College. She worked part-time at a local diner to pay for her tuition. Friends described her as kind, responsible, and cautious. She was last seen leaving the diner on the evening of November 2012, 1979, after her shift ended at 10 p.m. Her car was found in the parking lot the next morning. She was reported missing by her roommate when she did not come home. Hikers found Susan's body on November 2018, 1979, in Forest Park, 6 miles from the diner. She had been strangled with her own scarf. Her purse and jewelry were missing. Forensic evidence recovered from the scene included hair samples and partial fingerprints, but no matches were found in any database. The medical examiner determined she had been killed within hours of her disappearance. The original investigation was thorough for its time. Detectives interviewed over 200 people, checked dozens of alibis, and followed every lead. A suspect sketch was circulated based on witness descriptions of a man seen near the diner that night. Several men were brought in for questioning, but all were cleared. The case was officially classified as kalt in 1981. In 2019, Detective Maria Santos reviewed the case file as part of a cold case initiative. She noticed that evidence collected from the scene, including the hair samples, had never been submitted for DNA analysis because the technology did not exist in 1979. She sent the samples to the state crime lab. The DNA profile matched a man named Dale Cooper, who had been arrested for assault in 1985 and whose DNA was in the system. Cooper had lived just 2 blocks from the diner in 1979 and had been interviewed during the original investigation but was dismissed as a suspect due to what was then considered a solid alibi. Further investigation revealed that Cooper's alibi had been provided by his girlfriend, who later admitted she had lied because Cooper threatened her. In 2021, Dale Cooper, now 67 years old, was arrested and charged with the murder of Susan Morris. He was convicted based on DNA evidence and the recanted alibi. Cooper was sentenced to life in prison. He died in custody in 2023 before his appeal could be heard. The resolution of this 40-year-old case proves that justice delayed is not always justice denied. Advances in DNA technology and the dedication of investigators who refuse to give up can bring closure to families who have waited decades. For Susan Moore's family, the conviction brought a measure of peace, though nothing could undo the years of uncertainty they endured. Should all cold cases be re-examined with modern DNA technology? Let us know what you think in the comments. In 1996, a woman walked out of her home in broad daylight and was never seen again. No body, no evidence, no answers. Even after decades, her family still waits for the truth. The case of Kristen Modafree is one of the most baffling disappearances in American history. An 18-year-old college student, bright and ambitious, she had just moved to San Francisco to start a summer art program at UC Berkeley. Within weeks, she vanished without a trace. Kristen was born on June 1, 1978, in Lansing, Michigan. She was an honors student with a passion for photography and Artikel. In June 1997, she convinced her parents to let her attend a summer program at UC Berkeley. She found a job at a coffee shop near the campus and seemed to be thriving in her new environment. Friends described her as happy, outgoing, and excited about her future. On June 23, 1997, Kristen left her job at the coffee shop around 3 Uhr nachmittags. She told a coworker she was going to explore the city. She was last seen near the Crocker Galleria, a popular shopping center in downtown San Francisco. Security cameras never captured her leaving. No one reported seeing her after that afternoon. Her belongings were never found. There was no sign of forced entry at her apartment, no signs of a struggle anywhere. She simply ceased to exist. The FBI joined the investigation within days. They interviewed hundreds of witnesses and followed thousands of leads. A psychic even claimed Kristen was being held in a compound near Yosemite, which led to a massive search that turned up nothing. Her parents hired private investigators and offered a $50,000 reward. A tip line received over 1,000 calls, but none led to Kristen. The investigation uncovered suspicious individuals near the coffee shop, but no charges were ever filed. The trail went completely cold. Several persons of interest emerged over the years. A group of men were reportedly seen following young women near the coffee shop around the time Kristen disappeared. One man, identified through witness descriptions, had a history of violence against women but was never formally charged. Another theory suggested Kristen may have been targeted by a trafficking ring operating in the San Francisco area. None of these theories were ever confirmed. As of today, Kristen Modafree remains missing. Her case is one of the oldest active missing persons cases in California. The FBI maintains her file as an open investigation. Her parents have never stopped searching, maintaining a website and appearing in documentaries to keep her story alive. A law named after her, the Kristen Modafree Act, was proposed to improve coordination between local and federal agencies in missing persons cases. The disappearance of Kristen Madafree reminds us that sometimes the most frightening mysteries are the ones with no ending. A young woman with her whole life ahead of her walked into a crowded city and simply vanished. If you have any information about this case, please contact the FBI. Someone out there knows what happened to Kristen Madafree. The question is whether that truth will ever come to light. What do you think happened to Kristen? Let us know in the comments below. He killed at least 10 people over 3 decades, and police never came close to catching him. The Golden State Killer terrorized California for years, and his identity remained one of criminology's greatest mysteries until a revolutionary technique changed everything. Between 1974 and 1986, a series of brutal crimes swept through California. Burglaries escalated to sexual assaults, which then escalated to murder. The perpetrator was given many names: the East Area Rapist, the original Night Stalker, and eventually, the Golden State Killer. For over 40 years, his true identity remained hidden. The crimes began in the Sacramento area in the mid-1970s. The attacker would break into homes at night, often when couples were sleeping. He would tie up the male victim and assault the female. Over time, the violence escalated dramatically. He moved through communities in Sacramento, the East Bay, and Southern California, leaving a trail of fear and devastation. Law enforcement agencies in different jurisdictions did not initially connect the crimes. The Golden State Killer is believed to have committed at least 50 rapes, 13 murders, and over 100 burglaries across California. His methods were methodical and terrifying. He would stalk his victims for days, learning their routines. He would call them beforehand, breathing heavily into the phone. During attacks, he wore a ski mask and carried a weapon. He was meticulous about leaving no evidence, often taking souvenirs from the crime scenes. Multiple law enforcement agencies investigated the crimes independently for years. The breakthrough came when detectives from different jurisdictions finally shared their case files and realized they were looking for the same man. DNA evidence connected the various crime scenes, but there was no match in any database. For decades, the case went cold despite being one of the most extensive investigations in California history. Over the years, numerous suspects were investigated and cleared. The killer was described as a white male, approximately 5'9", with athletic build. He appeared to have military or law enforcement training based on his tactics. Despite thousands of tips and numerous persons of interest, no arrest was made for over 30 years. In 2018, investigative genetic genealogy changed everything. Investigators uploaded the killer's DNA profile to a public genealogy database and built a family tree. This revolutionary technique led them to Joseph James DeAngelo Jr., a 72-year-old former police officer living in Sacramento. Surveillance teams collected his DNA from a discarded tissue, and it was a match. DeAngelo was arrested on April 2024, 2018, and later pleaded guilty to 13 counts of murder. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole. The capture of the Golden State Killer proved that no crime is too old to solve. Forensic genealogy has since solved dozens of cold cases. But for the victims and their families, 40 years of fear and uncertainty cannot be undone. Justice arrived, but it was delayed by a generation. This case changed criminal investigation forever. Do you think forensic genealogy should be used to solve all cold cases? Tell us in the comments. 13 priceless artworks stolen in a single night. $300 million worth of masterpieces gone. And the thieves were never caught. This is the greatest art heist in history. On the night of March 18, 1990, 2 men dressed as police officers walked into the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston and walked out with 13 pieces of art worth over $500 million. Despite a $5 million reward and one of the largest FBI investigations in history, the paintings have never been recovered, and no one has been convicted. The Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum housed one of the finest private art collections in America. Its treasures included works by Rembrandt, Vermeer, Degas, and Manet. The museum was housed in a 15th-century Venetian-style palace with a unique security arrangement. Isabella Stewart's will required that nothing in the collection could be moved, sold, or replaced, making the loss of even a single piece irreplaceable. At approximately 1:20 nachts on March 18, two men wearing Boston police uniforms rang the buzzer at the museum site entrance. They told the security guard on duty that they were responding to a disturbance call. The guard, against museum protocol, let them in. The fake officers immediately handcuffed both security guards, wrapped them in duct tape, and locked them in the basement. Over the next 81 minutes, the thieves systematically removed 13 artworks from their frames. They took 3 Rembrandts, a Famia, 5 Degas sketches, a Manet, a Govad Flink, and an ancient Chinese bronze beaker. The total value was estimated at over $500 million, making it the largest property theft in history. The FBI launched a massive investigation. Agents followed thousands of leads and interviewed hundreds of suspects. Security footage showed the two men entering, but the quality was poor. The thieves appeared to know the museum's layout and security weaknesses. They spent exactly 81 minutes in sight, suggesting detailed planning. A reward of $5 million was offered for information leading to the recovery of the article. Over the years, several people claimed to know the painting's whereabouts, but every lead turned out to be a dead end. The prime suspects were members of Boston's criminal underworld. In 2013, the FBI announced that they believed the thieves were connected to a criminal organization based in New England and the Mid-Atlantic states. A notorious art thief named Miles Connor, who was in prison at the time of the heist, claimed he had knowledge of the crime and that the paintings were offered to him for sale. Another suspect, Robert Gentile, an alleged member of the Philadelphia mob, was investigated extensively but denied any involvement. He was never charged. The case remains unsolved. The empty frames still hang on the museum walls, a deliberate choice by the museum to honor the will of Isabella Stewart Gardner and to symbolize hope for their return. In 2017, the museum doubled the reward to $10 million for information leading to the recovery of the article. Periodically, rumors surface that the paintings have been spotted in various locations around the world, but none have been confirmed. The Gardner Museum heist is a crime that captured the world's imagination. Masterpieces by the greatest artists in history, stolen and vanished into the shadows of the criminal underworld. Whether the paintings are hidden in a basement, destroyed, or hanging in a secret private collection, the truth remains one of art's greatest mysteries. The empty frames on the museum walls serve as a haunting reminder of what was lost and what might never be found. Do you think the paintings will ever be recovered? Share your thoughts in the comments below.